Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle Tolsman, and you're listening to the Against All Average, Episode 1, the show where business owners and entrepreneurs come to learn the skills and mindset to lead exceptional lives. Today, I'm joined by the one and only Jake the Snippy Snake Spurley. What's up, Jake?
What's up, Kyle?
How you doing, man?
Dude, I'm doing awesome. It's a beautiful Thursday. We're going down in the Against All Average podcast. It's going to be great.
Man, I'm just super excited to finally get this project rolling. Episode 1. Man, what are we trying to do with this thing, Jake? I mean, we've had a lot of ideas over the last few days and few months and few years, it seems, about who we want to help. What's the direction we think we're going in the next few episodes?
I think really where we're cruising to is getting into the nitty gritty of business. Let's talk about some stories, bring some real winners on the show, figure out what they did, what they've learned, and talk about real life things that we've lived. So other entrepreneurs or aspiring kids, business owners, whoever they may be, have some industry knowledge.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's going to be a work in progress, trying to, find the folks that you guys want to listen to out there. I know coming up in episode 2, we'll have a former college football player turned head high school football coach and teacher and business owner. And he's going to absolutely unleash gold about living an exceptional life and getting as far away from average as possible. So we're super excited about episode 2. Before we get into everything, I'd like to thank our sponsor. When you need all things digital looking their best, call our friends at Fame Pro Services. Our friends will give you the above all average treatment with an awesome new website, custom graphics, social media management, and a full line of printing services. Fame, the trusted partner of the Above All Average podcast. Hey, yeah. Jake, you want to hear a dad joke?
Dude, I'm always down for a good dad joke.
I don't even know if this is a joke, but it's kind of interesting. Did you know that the first French fries weren't actually cooked in France?
No way, dude.
Yeah, they're cooked in Greece, which is weird. You always think French fries, and I don't know. I remember sometime in school some teacher telling me that French fries weren't really French, and that blew my mind. I didn't think I could come back the next week.
Who would have thought? Good old French fries straight from Greece.
Well, let's get into this thing. We're going to try to keep all of our podcasts under that hour mark so that you can get those snippets, those takeaways. We don't want content overload for you. We want actionable items for you. But before we get into talking about all these different business topics and interviewing all these different experts of different businesses of different types, you got to get to know us a little bit. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to let Jake get going and talk a little bit about his life and his path to entrepreneurship. And before we do that, Jake was actually one of my students at the high school level. So things are coming full circle, and it's really good to see him doing the right thing the right way and starting a variety of businesses and having success at some and not so much success at some. So I'm going to let Jake kind of get going on his upbringing, his life, and then maybe I'll play off it a little bit, and we'll try to get more out of him as he goes through his life, probably starting in elementary school.
Kicking it off at the old elementary school in Gresham, Oregon. Good old Pleasant Valley. Go Pilots. Yes, sir. Yeah, born and raised in Gresham, Oregon. Pretty young age, 2nd grade. My parents actually got divorced. So we moved out to St. Helens, Oregon. Good old podunk St. Helens, where my mom raised me out there, and kind of went through the school system. Was hustling candy bars out of my backpack in 6th grade and in middle school. You get the big old packs from Walmart and you hustle those things for like $1. If it was on a good day, like a Friday, you get $2 out of them. A little 2 for $5, whatever you could hustle. That's kind of where it started, making duct tape wallets too. Anything I could do to make a buck, man. I mean, you got to grind. And that's kind of really where the passion started. Hustling things. From there, I kind of went into high school. I got involved with 4-H. Raising hogs, raising pigs out in St. Helens. I always loved the grind. I always loved making $1, finding ways to be creative, make connections. So I started raising chickens, and between pigs and chickens, man, I tell you what, I made a good amount of money to put away to college when I was in middle school and high school.
And wait right there, Jake. We see all of this, and we apologize for the glitchiness. Sometimes with Skype interviews, you're going to hear a little bit of glitch here and there. There's nothing we can do about it. But I want to stop Jake there. We look on Instagram and like, what is the token entrepreneur? Like, what pictures do you see of entrepreneurs right now on Instagram and YouTube and all that nonsense?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, I don't see them hustling in the muck of a pig farmer. Come full circle to a professional worker offering professional services and going that road. But I mean, I think it attests to the point that you got to start somewhere, and it doesn't really matter where you start as long as you're starting somewhere.
Right. I'm always sick of seeing the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris and, anything to get a like, anything to get a comment. And we realized that there's such a large percentage of Americans that in some point in their life were into some type of farming, whether that's actually crops or raising cows or hogs or chickens or whatnot. And so I always find that funny. You look around and people don't realize it, but the farmers that you're like, oh, that's just a poor farmer, is probably that unknown multimillionaire next door that has a great entrepreneurial spirit, great hustle, great drive, and lives a life that they'd like to live, kind of out on a piece of property and have the calm of farming. So that's always awesome when I meet somebody else that's farmed. I farmed a lot in college, and harvesting grass seed and such. But it's always awesome to hear people growing up that way and finding success. So sorry to interrupt there, but I think that's just awesome.
Dude, it's great. I mean, so many remarkable lessons could be learned just from any avenue of life, farming and whatever. But I mean, I definitely attest a lot of my success and what I've learned from the 4-H program, raising hogs, hustling for that, and that was a great experience. And then going kind of through high school, I took this business class with some wacky guy named Kyle Tolsman. Should have dropped. Nah, I'm just kidding. But going through high school, I really started hustling there too, still doing the 4-H thing, and started a food truck catering company, Sausage King. My mom actually had to take me to our very first event because I couldn't even drive. I was 15. Like, yo, mom, come take me here. She did it,
That's awesome.
Did that for about 5 years, traveled all around Oregon, Washington, attending county fairs, festivals, events of all sorts, caterings, corporate companies, small businesses, kickoff parties. Really grew that to a comfortable size. Did that during college, and found great success with it. And that's really where I met so many of my connections now. That's useful for the current business is by hustling the route. And I think it's so important of people say, oh, I don't like doing this job, but it's about the connections you make and the lessons you learn while you're doing that job that you may not like. I would have never thought by slinging some sausages I'd be where I'm at today, but I couldn't have got here if I wasn't slinging the weenies. So it's pretty crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think any little anything that you can do business wise or just experiences in life will definitely help down the road. Jake, what are some things that were a real struggle for you growing up? You talked a little bit about your parents divorcing in elementary school. What are some other struggles that you've gone through or continue to go through that have shaped who you are and helped your drive as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Everybody always likes to talk about the goods and, the great things they've done. And I think one thing that, me and you are going to be super great about is being real with people who are listening. It's not all roses and butterflies. We both have a long list of not only failures, but some crummy things that have happened in life. But that's put us to where the situation we're at today. Between both my parents, I've been through 8 divorces through both of them, or all together.
What?
I know, dude. I know.
8
4.
different times?
I know. 4 marriages and divorces from my mom, 4 from my dad. That's taught me a lot. One, that your 401k getting cut in half goes down real quick.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, that was tough. Also having a parent that was really struggled with alcohol addiction and kind of depression when I was growing up, not being able to put down the drink and it really affecting her. And I remember my mom picking me up from baseball practice, and she was completely housed, and I was middle school, 6th grade, and having to drive her home. I had to look over while she was drunk and say, "Hey, Mom, which one's the gas pedal?" And as much as it's a crummy thing, but it's all stuff you kind of adapt to, and I learned great things from it. One, how I want to be a parent, but 2, it makes you grow up really fast, and that's as crummy as it was, I wouldn't have traded my childhood for anything, because it made me grow up so quickly and figure out life so fast. I was at an advantage, I felt, most of my life. I was always a step ahead of everybody else that was my age because I was so much more mature, because I had to be mature to survive. And tough, but it's one of those things where usually the easiest road isn't the best road. And I didn't choose the road chose me, baby. But it was great. I mean, beyond the divorces, I just counted it up. I'm 22 now. Just crazy to say out loud, but I've moved 16 times already, from college to this house to that house, between this divorce, that divorce. And moving doesn't seem like a big task, but it sure is very mentally tolling. You never really have a safe and steady home. Alongside of that, my dad was a doctor, so never really got to see him. He was always, in the picture, but he was busy saving lives, So I got the weekends with him, and he was a hardworking man. So I really had to raise myself, live with my mom, but her struggling with her alcohol issues, and crummy, but again, would not trade it for the world at all.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's kind of, I've always felt blessed as far as the stability of the home that I grew up in. I've moved 3 times into 3 better locations, better houses, etc. And that was kind of the reason that we moved. I grew up where my dad had a steady job. He worked for the same company for the most part for most of his career since he was 18 years old. And then my mom, when we were younger, worked a little part-time, did some banking, and then eventually moved over into insurance sales and health insurance, life insurance, etc. So when I hear of kind of what you've gone through, is I don't understand it on the level that you do. We come from different areas, but everybody has their own struggles and their own problems that they have to work through, and I think it's shaped us. One thing that I do remember about Jake is even in high school, that he had to take responsibility for himself. He acted like he was 22 years old when he was 17 in class. That didn't always work out the best in the way that he would talk, and some teachers had problems with it and didn't understand kind of where he came from. So I always hoped that he felt comfortable in my class, because even though I didn't know everything going on in the background, I was just there to be as patient with him as I could and get to him on whatever level I could on that day. So it's
And,
always funny.
and you look back and you're 100% right. Some teachers just couldn't understand it, which to no fault of their own. They're teaching high school students, and 99% of those students are at this level, and you have one oddball. It's kind of crazy to have to deal with that and understand that person. But coming into the business classroom, I mean, we had some of the most real conversations I ever had in high school about getting to the nitty gritty. And, I would 100% push my luck in business for multiple reasons. One, I knew I could get away with it. Come on. But two, we were being real about stuff. We would both challenge each other to, push each other to the next level, figure things out. And I thought it was great.
Right. I think where teachers sometimes go wrong is they can't handle the other side coming from some level of education. You had already bought and sold many things before you showed up into my classes. So you would kind of, does that really work? Sometimes we get so buried in business theory and marketing theory, and sometimes like, that's never worked for me. Has it ever worked for you? Some teacher might be like, stop testing me. I was always trying to see where you're coming from. And I was trying to keep my mind open to learn and just have that mindset. Like we can learn so much from so many different people, no matter what their age is. You are over 10 years younger than I am. I kind of have a school approach to things and grow up really adjusting to social media, like right when these different mediums showed up. Whereas you're kind of on top of that, and your company offers those social media packages to help companies kind of lay off their social media and kind of let you handle it. So what are you up to now? Your company is a sponsor of the show. I know you have a event management app, and then you do some pro services as well. So if you could talk a little bit about what Fame's all about, how the idea came up, and what you've been doing for the last couple of years with it.
Yeah. So, going back to the whole Sausage King business and where it led me to today, being able to travel the circuit, go to all the events. After I sold that business, I was appointed by the Columbia County Commissioners to be elected to the Columbia County Fair Board, where I oversaw all the vendors, special attractions, 4-H division, some volunteers, produced a demolition derby. And from that 1-year experience I had there, we were able to increase attendance by 48%, increase their social media likes on their page by 36%, while also spending $0 on advertising on Facebook. We also
just all organic growth.
All organic growth. And they were absolutely amazed by it because they were spending thousands of dollars and not gaining traction. I think that kind of goes to show the point of, anybody can do it themselves, but you can pay somebody else who that's what they do, and they can get you a lot further with a lot less. And from that experience, I realized that the application process for vendors and exhibitors who are applying to events was severely broken. It was all pen and paper, throw it in the mail, hopefully it gets there. So from there, we developed a complete event management platform where events can search for service providers, vendors to attend their events, and all the vendors can apply to these events digitally, pay online, know where they're at in the process, integrated messaging. So it's really, really a complete platform to streamline your event and really, really manage it from one dashboard. And then from there, we realized that there was a whole pro services division that we now offer that handles just professional services, mostly in the event industry, but we do have quite a few customers who are just regular businesses. We have, accounting firms, we have some stainless steel manufacturers, businesses of all sorts, where we offer website development, social media management, graphic design, full line of printing services, signs, banners, stickers, you name it, all the way into website hosting, complete design, really offering services in the digital world for any business to really take advantage of and take their business to the next level.
That's awesome. What's been the biggest challenge? I know this company is in its infancy. When did you start the company, and what's been the biggest challenge getting this thing rolling?
Yeah, I mean, coming from a guy who has absolutely no experience in software, I think we can really split it up into two sectors, just like the business. The software side, the biggest challenge was figuring out coding, figuring out networking with the people that know what they're doing. Because I'm fine with it. I had no clue what I was doing in software, but I had the idea, I had the vision, and just getting the bearings right with the fundamental foundation of people. And that's one thing I can't stress enough is not only networking, but networking and being in the same pond with the right people at the right time. And I think for the pro services side, our biggest challenge has really been outreach amidst the pandemic. Before COVID-19, which is where we're in right now, it was so easy to approach businesses and say, hey, you have problem X, we provide solution Y, and we can get rid of problem X, and we can take over this problem for you and make it a really big plus. And now businesses just don't have the capital to do that, or they're scared they may not be here to reap the benefits of our services that we offer. That's been definitely our biggest challenge so far. We launched the software back in January of 2020, so about 5 months ago. We've been offering our professional services a little over a year now as well. So far, those have been the big challenges, but I think every challenge is a big opportunity somewhere, and we've definitely embraced the challenge and made an opportunity out of it.
So what you're telling me is your biggest challenge isn't that all these events are closed down?
It sounds really odd. I think right now a big challenge is that, but I think our biggest challenge so far has been networking with the right people. Granted, right now a huge challenge is that there aren't any events running, but in all reality, there are a ton of features that we still want to implement on our platform, and this whole shutdown of events gives us an extra year to implement new features and network and gain so many more customers right off the bat when we're just launching this software. So yes, definitely sucks that events can't use our software this year, but it's also a huge opportunity for us to add new features and really gain traction in the market space.
Yeah, I was always wondering that as I kind of felt for you as far as, holy moly, you have a software based on getting large groups of people together in this pandemic. We're in, like Jake said, we're in the COVID-19 stage. Different counties in Oregon are in phase 1 of opening up, and seeing if the cases will increase. So we're in an interesting time, but I love that mindset that you have, Jake. And it was like, hey, we've got another year to do this. So we're going to build our network. We're going to start talking to the right people because events will come back. And I think that's super important in everything that we do is you've got to continue to look forward. I remember a few years ago, and Jake was there, Strucktown Showdown. It was in Lake Oswego, Oregon, and holy moly. I'd come from Hillsboro, and Hillsboro's about 30 miles west of Lake Oswego, maybe 25, something like that. And all the roads had cleared. It's in December. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is going to be a good weekend. It's going to be really cold. We packed all those, what do you call those things you kind of break open and you put in your gloves?
Like the Hot Pocket thing.
The Hot
hand
Pocket.
Warmers.
Yeah, and we got 3 boxes of those, and we're like, oh, we're going to sell out of these in the first day. We're all excited. I show up to Lake Oswego. I have the tournament schedule dialed in. I've got all my cones set up, my refs. I'm double checking everybody, double calling all the volunteers and paid workers and you name it. I show up and it's a sheet of ice. And like, I'm not talking like we need to break up some ice or we could sort of walk. The campus that we're at is so sideways. The fields are down about 20, 30 feet. And the pathway to get to fields has a serious slope. And so, I could have just been like, oh, cancel the tournament, right? No. Like right away, I sent a crew to go pick up salt, industrial level salt, to go melt all the driveways, all the stairs, everything like that. I'm back and forth in communication with the school district. And, I had to reschedule all the Friday games into Saturday, Sunday. I had to shorten the time, shorten the lengths, re-talk to every single person, every single duty. But it was just part of it. My role when I run events, and what's cool is Jake does the events, does a different side of the events now, and I run lacrosse tournaments. So it's funny sometimes how people are freaking out and this and that, and I'm just pretty calm because I know that is my job, just to put out those fires. And so it's important to note, Jake was talking, his example is, hey, I'm looking at it on the bright side. I have another year to put in some more infrastructure into my software to make it better. And so when I'm talking to customers on the phone, this is going to be amazing. And Jake's always had that problem as a vendor, that things are chaos. It's different from one fair to the other, how you pay people, how you get paid. So it's always super important to have that mindset. If you want to be the owner of something, the CEO, you want a cool title, you've got to be ready and willing to take the heat. Like, it is going to come. Like, if you want to be successful, you will run into problem after problem after problem. And I forget who said it, you get paid based on the level of difficulty of the problems in which you solve, right? And so when I'm out putting out fires, I'm just like, oh, this is fine. Christmas is coming soon. This will be fine. Like, eventually I'll be able to, sit down, relax, and laugh about this. But I'm a huge fan of mindset, and not necessarily always making sure that you have a positive mindset, but at the very least, a neutral mindset in what happens to you.
Absolutely. I mean, I think so much of it, that even we've had in the tourneys is people respect, I think, the mindset and your demeanor more than the solution sometimes. Even if the solution isn't 100% favorable to them, but they know that you went in it with calm, under pressure, looking to solve the problem. People respect that so much. And I think that little thing reflects so much further into business of mindset over outcome sometimes, in that the outcome may not always be great, but if you're going in it with the right mindset, great things are bound to happen eventually.
Right. It's just, how good are you when things hit the fan, so to speak? And so much is like, I started businesses before I had kids, and it's so similar. It is so similar. Like, it's like a daily challenge. Like, how patient can I be under chaos? It's definitely interesting with this COVID scenario. I'm home all day. The kids are home all day. And in Oregon, it rains. Sometimes we are, at each other's throats, and we're trying to problem solve and stay calm and stay consistent like you want to be. But don't ever hold yourself to being perfect. Just work towards being better and better.
Yeah. We kind of touched base a little bit on, you run lacrosse tournaments and kind of that whole side of it. And you mentioned kids, assuming you're dad. I know you're a dad, but give the listeners a little bit about the one and only life of the Kyle Tolzman.
Oh my goodness. I've thought a lot about this as far as like, where should we go? What's valuable? What's not? And I've lived a very entertaining life. I'll try to have some friends on as well, and they can tell stories of high school and college and after college and different sides of me. I'm a crazy competitor. So it just depends on kind of where you see me, what you know about me. But growing up, like I said, I had an awesome family. My dad, we call him the Truth. Tim the Truth Tolsman, because he's always telling stories. He always wants people to feel welcome, like they belong, especially when they're at our house. And he's just consistent, growing up. 6 a.m. every day, like even weekends he was up early. I knew because he'd be grinding coffee for, it seemed like 45 minutes sometimes, just like, oh, come on, I just want to sleep. But he was just super consistent. I think he took like 3 sick days in 30 years. And those sick days where they sent him home, like he still showed up. Like I'm still working. He was just Mr. Consistent, very level-headed, and was always a huge supporter of kind of the different things that I would do, because I'm all over the place. I focus sometimes extremely well, and other times, even on this call, I go in and out of different thoughts, and I have to silence those thoughts so I can listen to Jake and ask great questions and different things like that. But I had an awesome family. My mom, I forget what year it was, but she took over her dad's insurance company. And so she was more on the sales side. She was the more of the entrepreneur, doing things, but she always figured out ways in which she could spend more time with family. She's hyper productive, hyper efficient, like puts me to shame in all those areas of like organization, hyper productivity, even at this age, just because she's done it so long. It's not like if I'm going to do it, it's like when. It's like little things, like the dishes. Like she just look at the dishes and it's like they were talking to her wrong or something like that. It's just like, oh, I'm taking care of that. Taxes needed to be figured out. Like I'm taking care of that. And she just went about her day like that. Doesn't take naps. Just up, getting it. Like, so I had 2 very different parents. My dad's super laid back, super chill. And then my mom's more high strung, sort of like I am. And I'm a combination of both of them. And I thought it was super important that I start getting some job experience. I think I was 10 years old. My brother is 2 years older than me. And I got my first paper route. I was like, oh, awesome. I'm going to make some money. You could get these little dollars and you could spend them down at the local arcade or get a slice of pizza in downtown Hillsborough. I was so jacked about these. It was called the Argus was the paper. It no longer exists. But so jacked about the Argus bucks and doing a good job and making sure that newspaper landed on people's doorsteps and, all those little things like when you start out. I'm a month into this thing. I'm just like, this sucks. Like, this is awful. Like, I might have been like 80 pounds and my paper route bag, it had to weigh like at least 80 pounds. Like, I remember the first time I took two trips with the bag because I was just like, oh, there's no way. Like, I tried to put that bag on my handlebars, on a bike rack. Like, I tried all these different things to try to make this thing easier. But like, there's no making it easier. It was just freaking heavy. And I was a little beanpole at like 80 pounds, 10-year-old. And so we eventually moved, 3 years later. I had that paper route. Maybe I was 11. Maybe I had it for a couple of years. And once we moved, I was just like, whoo, just a sigh of relief. Like,
no more paper route.
No more paper route. Like, I wanted to throw a freaking party, like a 13-year-old party for having no more paper route. I was so jacked up. And my mom, like, she tried to convince me to ride my bike up this huge hill, couple busy roads, and just run the route again. I was just like, it might have been a mile away from the new house to start the route. I was just like, nope, that's way too far. Like, I can't make that happen. So that kind of switched, and I was super excited about getting into something else. And I started mowing our lawn more and more when I was like 10 years old, 11 years old at the old house. And I started just going door to door mowing lawns when I was like 13, 14 years old. And I'm a business teacher right now. And my students look at me like, what? like, you went door to door knocking when you saw somebody's lawn was long? I was like, yeah, that was so freaking easy. Like, I didn't have to carry any papers. I didn't have to throw papers. I didn't have to, like, dodge from getting hit by cars. Like, it was an amazing gig. I just go up to each door like, hey, your lawn looks a little bit long. I've got my lawnmower. You know, I'll do it for $20. And, you know, there's so many people, like, you knew they're well off. You know, there's a Lexus and a Mercedes in the driveway. They're like, you know, $20 is a little steep. I'll give you 10. And so then I figured out, you know, how to haggle. I'm sorry, your neighbor just paid 25. I'm actually giving you a great deal. And so, you know, I go to the next house and the next house. And, you know, some days were better than others, but I just take it out. And my dad would let me borrow the lawnmower. And one of the few things I did is probably it is probably one of the dumbest things I've done is I used to tie the rope around the handle and get the push lawnmower going, and then I'd just step on it and sit on the top of the motor, and just to be even more lazy, and just have the push mower basically turned into me riding down the street, the blades going, rocks are getting spit from the underside, like you can smell the motor just getting super hot. But those are always just like fun times. So I met some really cool people within the neighborhood, and I'd come back. But it's just kind of something like I needed to do something, right? Or I was getting in trouble. Like I was either doing something productive or I was finding ways to ride my bike through people's yards and stuff like that, which, you know, is always going to make people upset.
But then kind of branching off that, I mean, I know your mad obsession for lawnmowers, and I feel like all listeners really need to hear this too. Talk about, you know, hustling and keeping yourself busy. Like, tell us this whole lawnmower gig you got going.
Holy moly! Like I was hoping that I'd get to another episode before I'd have to spill the beans on my
No way, dude.
But we'll I'll give you a little touch of it. But like I stay in motion. That's the easiest way to put it. Once I'm up, and I start going in motion. So my uncle is actually a huge influence on me growing up because he always worked on cars, and I always loved cars, and he'd work on them and get them back running, and he'd start working on lawnmowers and this or that, and there was just like nothing he couldn't fix. So I kind of took that passion and I started finding lawnmowers that wouldn't run. And it kind of started out because my wife's father, my father-in-law, Greg, he gave us a lawnmower that wasn't running. He's like, you want this lawnmower? I was like, oh yeah, that can't be bad. And I took it apart and I cleaned out the carburetor and I put it back together and it ran. It was a simple 5-minute YouTube video. And I was like, well, that's $100 lawnmower. I was like, I now have $100 lawnmower. So I had that one. And then I started finding other ones that, you know, people were just kind of got frustrated with. They're like, this thing doesn't run. It ran last year. There's nothing else wrong. And I just find it ridiculous that I could put 20 minutes into it and clean out a carburetor or buy a new one and turn it and make a couple $100. And for me, it's not about the money. I have other jobs that generate income, but it's about I don't know, like people call it the hustle, right? And I don't even know if I like that word, but it's just business. Like I like interacting. I like negotiating. I like meeting people. I like the psychology of it. I like studying who's coming over and how they talk and walk. And it's not about lawnmowers. It's about people, I think. And it's just, I don't know. I just find business awesome. Finding that need. Somebody needs a running lawnmower, especially in April and May. And so you fix them up and you turn them. My wife freaking hates it though. Just, why is there 3 lawnmowers in my freaking garage? And you know the gas stinks and all that. But that's kind of that's the short of it. We could go into depth. I think one of our episodes, Jake and I will talk about Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and OfferUp and those types of apps, and give you guys some real world strategy on how to turn a buck. Because I think it's super important in these times and other times as well is to build up some some financial backing at least, so that when something happens, like you lose your job or something like that, you're not completely out of luck and you have other ways to generate income. So that's kind of long story short on flipping lawnmowers. That's like you just fast forwarded from sitting my 13-year-old self sitting on lawnmowers, riding them down the road to the 35-year-old me, and I'm still tinkering with stuff. I'm still mowing neighbors' lawns every once in a while. Like I just sitting still is bad for me. I need different tasks to keep my mind active and my mind sharp.
And we did fast forward pretty quick, and we'll go back here, but I just think the tinkering of the lawnmowers is not only a great story that I am absolutely giddy to get deeper into the lawnmower story in a different episode, but I really think it goes to show your character, right? I think that's more of a character story. So we touched about the lawnmowers, we touched about your childhood, great parents, driven mom, kind of go with the flow, dad. Tell us about kind of your middle years, the college years, where did you learn lacrosse? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so you kind of fast forward to lacrosse is a huge part of my life, and I've kind of tailored back a little bit. I kind of got burnt out a little bit about a year back, but this COVID thing, it's hard to get burnt out when we can't play lacrosse. But starting out, like in 8th grade, one of my friends was playing, and a mentor of mine, Coach Lardy, said, "Hey, you want to play lacrosse?" Like I was just like walking by his table. He tells the story way better than I do. But I finally joined lacrosse. I had played hockey from the time, roller hockey, when I was a young kid. I started in 5th grade, I believe. My brother in 7th, and we played all the way through high school. There's actually roller hockey leagues in Beaverton in those years, which was awesome. But I started playing lacrosse and just loved it. Just like I loved hockey, I loved the free-flowing part of the game. I loved just being out there. I loved how it didn't start and stop as much as other sports, and the contact. I was always loved the contact. Like I was an aggressive kid. My brother is definitely more like analytical in the way he played lacrosse his last couple of years. But like I was just a grinder. Like I didn't fear anything, and I just kind of throw my body out there, and it hurts now because of years of that. But that's kind of where lacrosse started, and just kind of got better and better, and got on some different teams that helped me through high school, and played lacrosse at the University of Oregon. And then I created a company, Awestruck Lacrosse, because there was a need in Hillsboro for high quality coaching. Like there just wasn't enough people putting things out there and putting things together for players that wanted to get to that next level, whatever that may be for them. So lacrosse has been huge part of my life, and definitely a huge part of my business career as well. And it's funny, Jake, you were talking about networks. I still deal with the same networks from 8th grade. So some of these old school coaches still remember my 14-year-old self going and playing lacrosse. And that goes to show how important it is to make sure that you're respectful to everyone, right? You never know who's controlling your next decision, or has some sort of control in your next decision, or can help you get to that next level.
Definitely crazy. I mean, even I run into events of an event that I attended my first year in business, running the food truck, and it was an absolutely awful event. We lost a ton of money at it, but I was always super respectful, grateful for the opportunity to be there. And now that decision maker who I dealt with, it's probably 7-8 years ago, is coming around full circle, and they're interested in all of our services. And she was just amazed. I remember you back in the day. You were so respectful. You're the same type of person, which I am. Like I'm just so thrilled to be able to find your services now, and it's crazy at the power of, like you said, the network, and just being respectful at all times, because you never know where that next key is going to be.
Exactly. And so this is definitely I don't know. I'm still giddy. I'm still excited. I hope Jake is as well. I know Jake is going to be on a lot of these different calls with me and helping me interview. And he just has that younger mindset of kind of what's going on. He's definitely really up to date with the social media stuff, YouTube, analytics, you name it. But I'd like to wrap up this session and just remind everyone, please spread the word about our new podcast, Against All Average. We only have one sponsor. I only spoke about them for like 10, 15 seconds. I didn't waste your time. We're going to give you value each and every episode, but there's a fee, there's a cost. I need you to tell at least one person about our podcast. And if you can do that, we can exponentially grow through these episodes. And we just come from a place of service. We just want to help small businesses, entrepreneurs, or even folks that haven't started. They're just like, there's so much to do. I don't know what the heck to do. Those are the people that we're going after. We're going to teach them, bring them along with this path, bring them along with the show, bring them along with different interviewers. So with that, Jake, do you have anything to close out?
I mean, yeah, I think it's super important that we get people engaged in the show. If you have a question about anything business related, how do I set up an LLC? How do I do this? How do I do that? Put it in the comments. Get a hold of us. We would absolutely love to answer your questions. Maybe it's a current frustration in your business. Maybe it's a hang up with your startup or getting started, Shoot us that question or problem. We would absolutely love to address it on a show and work with you to come to a solution. Because if you have that question, I guarantee you 100 other people have the exact same question that you do.
Yeah, you're completely right. And so you can find us on Instagram, Against All Average. You can find us on YouTube, Against All Average. We'll put up our video of these conversations, and we'll also have them on all of the different channels you can find podcasts on. So without further ado, thank you very much for listening to episode 1 of the Against All Average podcast. We'll see you next time.